I have chosen the case of good intent to base my case analysis on. I am working in a careers role in a school in WA, and therefore the Career Industry Council of Australia, CICA, professional standards, and the Department of Education WA Code of Conduct would apply when considering ethical standards. I was presenting a student destination report on last year's cohort to the staff at my school and decided to add a narrative aspect to highlight the significant achievements and demonstrate the effectiveness of a quality career education programme. I included a story about a student and his family that I'd worked with for 2 years and how he transformed from a disengaged student to receiving a school-based traineeship with a guaranteed job at the end of year 12. The principal shared students' personal information on the school's social media platform and in the school newsletter without my knowledge. This led to the students' parents being furious that I had shared this information without informing them, as she believed this was a breach of the students' privacy. I am now concerned about the damage to my relationship with the parents, and I'm angry with the principal for not informing me she was going to share the information on a public forum. This incident has raised several ethical dilemmas that I now have to consider, including but not limited to the following: the principal's actions and whether she behaved ethically, how to repair the family's faith in me in an ethical way, how to discuss this matter with my principal and maintain a professional and ethical relationship with my principal in the future, and the potential breach of the student's privacy and whether I behaved ethically in sharing this with my colleagues. I will be using the PLUS ethical decision-making model to help resolve these issues, as this model considers the importance of empowering me to be able to make decisions within my responsibility and gives me confidence the decisions I make are aligned with those of my organization's policies, values, applicable laws and regulations, as well as my own definition of equitable and acceptable. To enable me to work ethically, considerations of the impact of CICA and DOEWA standards on my decision-making process is vital. The PLUS model is rigorously based on current theories and understandings of both decision-making processes and ethics, easy to use and self-explanatory. This clearly defined and easy-to-use model can be seamlessly linked with my normal decision-making processes. The PLUS ethical decision-making model is a 7-step process to aid in making ethical decisions that refers to the PLUS ethical filters. These ethical filters are: P equals policies. Does it align with my school's policies, procedures, and guidelines? L equals legal. Does it comply with governing laws? U equals universal. Does it fit with the principles and values my school has embraced? S equals self. Does it comply with my ethical values? These are the steps taken to resolve and evaluate the decision. I will now consider each step for the ethical challenges I am currently facing. Step 1 is defining the problem, referring to the PLUS filters. The sharing of information on a public forum that identifies a particular client student without their prior consent breaches both the relevant CICA and DOEWA data protection standards. I did not receive consent from the client, and the principal did not receive consent from me. The relevant laws are WA State Freedom of Information Act and the Federal Privacy Act that protects an individual's right to ensure their personal information remains confidential unless they consent to share. The principal and I may have thought we were acting on the values of our school to act in the best interests of our students by sharing this success story, to let other students know the value of quality career education. Therefore, this is not a breach when considering the whole cohort, but would be when considering individual student. My own personal ethics, the right of everyone to have privacy, I may not have considered this a breach, as DOEWA standards allow me to share information with my colleagues as we're all bound by the code. However, CICA standards apply, and these require me to inform a client of when I would be sharing this information. As I decided to update the report after the student left school, I did not get this permission. I am not maintaining an ethical relationship with my client, their family, and my principal. I also believe in celebrating the success of our students, and this guided me in what I thought would be a positive action. The DOE Standards and Integrity Department deal with breaches of the Code of Conduct and are happy to provide advice to employees. However, in this case, as the principal may be unaware of a breach, as she may not be aware that I did not receive permission, the first person to ask for advice would be my direct line manager, who in this case is the principal, but may be a HOLA, head of learning area. The principal may also direct me to someone in student services or the upper school coordinator that might have a relationship with the family to ask for advice. There are 7 alternatives, and I'll now identify them in step 3. Do nothing. Do not discuss with principal but change how you share personal data in the future. Seek client permission in future to make it clear where and what can be shared to adhere to SICA standards of keeping clients informed about data sharing and limits of confidentiality. Ask principal if student had signed any permission talent release form to agree to sharing of information while at school. This may help to explain to parent but will not completely resolve the issue. The principal may have assumed I had checked this before I shared with my colleagues. Apologize for not doing this. Discuss SICA ethical standards with principal and explain her sharing information caused a breach as I had not asked client permission to share. Request she informs me of sharing so that I can check with the client student. Explain I was following DOE-WA standards when sharing with colleagues but had not considered SICA and that I would do this in the future. I apologize to parent and client, then post apology if required by parent. Share my plans for confidentiality in the future and remove or edit posts if requested. Request someone else with a relationship with the family act as a mediator and discuss issue with the mother. I will now evaluate the 7 alternatives. It's not ethical to do nothing. Not discussing with the principal is covering it up and would not be ethical. It's important to consider future actions, however, this alone would not resolve the issue. Never make assumptions. A talent release form may have been signed, but client parent may not remember this. Therefore, always ask for permission before sharing. Permissions policy needs to be reviewed to include career education options or a similar form designed to cover confidentiality of students undertaking career counselling to meet SICA standards. This will help for future clients but not past and present. It's good to admit my mistake and discuss importance of SICA standards with principal to ensure we are both meeting standards. Very important to consider SICA and DOE-WA standards to avoid this type of breach in the future. 6. Admitting my mistake, making an apology and explaining the solution for the future will hopefully help to rebuild relationship with the parent. I had a positive relationship in the past and I would expect this honesty to be acceptable to the family, but further work may be required. Hopefully not necessary to get others involved with contacting parent, but useful option if needed. Before completing step 5, 6 and 7, I consulted with a group of my colleagues to discuss this case. Reflecting on the discussions from our group, we did not think this was an issue that needed to be raised with standards and integrity. We felt it best to discuss with principal to maintain relationship. Discussion of privacy issues in school reminded me of a talent release forms that can be signed in year 7 and influenced my decision to add new permission slip to the career counselling process. We also discussed the reasons that the parent might be furious, embarrassing for students, VOR, location now disclosed, etc. However, the reasons are not important as there was a breach, so this information may only be relevant to aid rebuilding relationships with the family. Most of the members of the group are going to use the PLUS model, and this confirmed my decision to use this effective ethical decision-making model. Make the decision, step 5. My decision is based on several identified alternatives and the reflections from the group consultation and ensures the PLUS model is reflected positively. The most important point is to follow DOE-WA and SICA standards at all times. It's important that I inform my clients when I will be sharing information. Creating a permission to sign will ensure this. Also, when sharing publicly, ensure identifying information is not used to ensure no privacy is breached. A new policy should be created to outline these changes. Discussion will help maintain my ethical relationship with my principal and keep us both informed of standards. Accepting the blame for sharing without consent will help to maintain a positive relationship, which is key to my success. Speaking with the family to apologise and ask how amends can be made, e.g. removing posts and/or public apology, and sharing future plans will hopefully repair the relationship with them. Based on my previous relationship, I am confident I can mend the relationship. Step 6. Implement the decision. Take action and perform the task outlined in the decision. Step 7. Evaluate the decision. Refer to PLUS filters. This evaluation helps me to reflect on the key points in consideration and whether my decision resolved the issues in an ethical way. I'm happy with the decision I have made, as all the recognized PLUS issues are green and ethical. Open and frank discussion with the client, parents, and my principal will ensure that I am maintaining an ethical and professional relationship with them and will help to resolve the first 3 ethical issues. Ensuring SICA and DOEWA standards regarding the data sharing are followed and setting new procedures regarding informing clients and the use of data will ensure I do not cause this type of ethical breach in the future. Reflecting on my actions, I did breach my client's privacy, and apologizing to the principal and the client parents and removing the information is the best action to resolve the last identified issue. This issue has raised the ethical concern of sharing student information in newsletters and social media, and as there is not a specific school policy, however, there is a DOE policy, and this should be reviewed and shared with staff. Keeney discusses the importance of considering social media's impact on our ethical decision-making and professional practice. As part of my ongoing learning, I need to better understand the impact of social media on my professional practice. It would be useful to review how other career practitioners address this topic. Can you suggest some sites I could visit, career practitioners I could meet, or if there is a specific policy that has been created? Another issue I need some help with is how to inform my colleagues of the SICA standards and how these align and/or differ from the DOEWA standards in a simplified manner. I think a simple chart showing where they differ might help for me to share at a staff meeting or when meeting with other colleagues when I can see a conflict. Do you know if there's a resource of this kind available?